Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, you're very welcome. This is Reading the Past and I'm Dr. Cat. For those of you that have watched any of my History News live episodes, or if you keep up with the history news in general, you may well have seen reports of paint being thrown on works of art or onto heritage sites, of people gluing themselves to the same as acts of protest. Now, while we can debate the efficacy of these methods till the cows come home, frankly, what is inescapable is that this behaviour is not a new thing. In reference to current events, I have, for example, seen links being made to the activities of the suffragettes, those individuals who were committed to win the vote by any means necessary, who chose for their actions and activities and organisation the motto, deeds, not words. Often highlighted in these discussions are their acts of arson, use of explosive devices, window smashing and assaults. But perhaps the most mentioned action in recent months has been Mary Richardson's slashing of the so-called Rokeby Venus. This occurred at the National Gallery in 1914. And the renewed interest is perhaps understandable, as this same painting was also targeted by Just Stop Oil activists in 2023. However, this Velázquez work was not the only cultural artefact to be the focus of suffragette action. Today, I want to take a look at the so-called Tower suffragette, Leonora Cohen. Leonora was born Leonora Throp in Leeds on the 15th of June 1873 to the sculptor Canova Throp and his wife Jane. Leonora was around 6 years old when her father died from tuberculosis. This was an illness that Leonora would also contract in her childhood. After Canova's death, his family did struggle financially. In her teens, Leonora was apprenticed to a milliner, and she would pursue a career in that trade following her apprenticeship. On the 5th of March 1900, when Leonora was 27 years old, she married her childhood friend, Henry Cohen. He was a jeweller and a watchmaker. Neither of their families were particularly happy with this match. Henry's family were apparently displeased with his decision to marry outside of the Jewish faith. It is, however, possible that this couple felt they had little time to try and win their families round to their marriage, as it may well have been the case that Leonora was already pregnant at her wedding. After all, the couple's daughter Rosetta was born just 8 months later. Sadly, little Rosetta died the following year, just before her first birthday. Leonora and Henry would go on to have a son named Reginald, who was born in 1902. Leonora's upbringing, with its economic privations in the aftermath of her father's death, had driven home to her the inequalities that were faced by women at that time. Her mother had worked as a seamstress, but due to her sex, she was paid significantly less than men who were doing the same work. When Leonora was interviewed in later years, she stated that, quote, "Life was hard. My mother would say, 'Leonora, if only we women had a say in things,' but we hadn't. A drunken lout of a man opposite had a vote simply because he was a male. I vowed I'd try to change things." And so, Leonora became involved with the Women's Social and Political Union. From this point on, I will refer to this organisation by its familiar acronym, the WSPU. The WSPU had been founded in Manchester by the Pankhursts in 1903. In 1909, Leonora was selling WSPU newspapers in Leeds. Her husband's business was doing well. Her son was away at boarding school, and both of these factors offered Leonora the opportunity to throw herself into the fight for equal franchise. Before long, she would show that she fully supported the WSPU's more militant and direct actions. On the 22nd of November 1911, Leonora was one of a number of suffragettes that smashed the windows of government buildings during the WSPU protests in London. At her trial for malicious damage, she would defend herself. She was, however, convicted and sent to Holloway Prison for 7 days. She was not deterred by this experience. If anything, it only spurred her on to further dedication to her cause. She joined Emmeline Pankhurst's bodyguard. This is not only a sign that she was trusted in this organisation, but also that she was recognised as being in good physical condition and adept at martial arts and or self-defence. I would like to make a video on this group, the bodyguard, and their training, if that is something that would be of interest. If it is, please do let me know. The WSPU did not simply value Leonora for her physical capabilities. On the 23rd of January 1913, she was part of a deputation to Parliament. She delivered a rousing and emotive speech on the plight of women. Diane Drummond explains that she spoke in particular, quote, of the haunted existence of the poorly paid tailoresses in Leeds, which gained the sympathy of the Chancellor of the Exchequer, David Lloyd George. In spite of this, political prevarication regarding the requested changes to voting access would continue. Prime Minister Herbert Asquith became a particular focus of suffragette anger due to these continued delays. Leonora decided to find an outlet for her frustrations by staging an attention-grabbing direct action of her own, one that would earn her the moniker of Tower Suffragette. On the 1st of February 1913, Leonora entered the Tower of London and made her way to the Upper Wakefield Tower, where the crown jewels were on display at that time. Her visit to this room coincided with that of a group of schoolchildren, and it is believed that she attracted less attention as it was thought that she was a schoolteacher who was accompanying the group. Before anyone could intervene, Leonora drew out an iron bar that she had hidden in her coat for the purpose. She threw it at the glass casing that was protecting the insignia of the Order of Merit. She had wrapped the bar with a message, quote, "Jewel House, Tower of London. My protest to the government for its refusal to enfranchise women, but continues to torture women prisoners. Deeds, not words. Leonora Cohen." The reverse of this label read, quote, "Votes for Women. 100 years of constitutional petition, resolutions, meetings and processions have failed." At once, yeoman warders seized her. She was once again arrested and charged with malicious damage. Again, she would defend herself in court. A technicality would see her being discharged on this occasion, though. It had been alleged that she had caused damage in excess of £5, and she argued, seemingly successfully, that it did not amount to that. The jury could not reach a verdict, and so she was acquitted. The government were concerned that Leonora's actions might inspire others, and so they ordered the temporary closure of the Tower of London, Hampton Court Palace, Kensington Palace, Kew Palace and Holyrood Palace. In May 1913, Leonora addressed open-air meetings at the Leeds Miners' Institute and also on Woodhouse Moor. While doing so, she reportedly asserted that, quote, "We are not going to get 6 weeks for asking questions. I would rather have 5 years for burning down a mansion. I say every woman in our union is ready for anything that may come along. Arson, pillar boxes, windows, or anything." A few days later, on the 14th of May 1913, Leonora was tried at Leeds Magistrates Court for uttering these words. It was alleged they amounted to inciting malicious damage. It was claimed that her words had led to actual moments of direct action in Leeds. She challenged this assertion while she was defending herself. Ultimately, 2 sureties of £50 were demanded from her. This was something that her husband provided. Leonora was then bound over to keep the peace. Around 6 months later, though, it appears that she had enough of being peaceful. When Prime Minister Asquith came to Leeds in November 1913, various violent suffragette actions took place. Leonora was arrested for breaking windows at a local government building. On this occasion, she was charged with willful damage and was imprisoned in Armley Jail. There, she went on both a hunger and a thirst strike. This led to a rapid decline in her health. Indeed, she got so sick so quickly that she was promptly released under the so-called Cat and Mouse Act. Her release came on the 1st of December 1913. Her husband Henry wrote to the Home Office saying that if they rearrested Leonora, they would be responsible for her death. She was not rearrested. She was, however, awarded the WSPU Hunger Strike Medal in recognition of her bravery. In later years, Leonora said of Henry, quote, "I am afraid I was a terrible worry to my husband. He was the most patient, kind, and understanding." This affection was seemingly mutual. Henry died in 1949. In his will, he wrote of Leonora that, quote, "I have lived in perfect appreciation of all her loving and unselfish devotion throughout our happy life together. My love for her has been the one perfect happiness that life has given to me. And I leave my son the solemn duty of taking my place, to make her declining years happy and comfortable, as she deserves of us both." The year after her imprisonment, in 1914, Leonora's family, including her mother, moved to Harrogate and opened a boarding house. At this boarding house, she protected fellow suffragette Lillian Lenton and helped her to evade arrest. The boarding house would be targeted by anti-suffrage groups. They would stone it. Leonora's mother would be hurt when a WSPU meeting in Harrogate was attacked by a similar anti-suffrage mob. Of course, 1914 also saw the outbreak of the First World War. Leonora became a lathe operator at a munitions factory in Leeds, and this drew her towards union activity. She joined the General and Municipal Workers' Union. She organised petitions and a 3-day strike. She became the first female trade union member of the National Munitions Advisory Board. This was following her election to the role of Leeds District Organiser for the General and Municipal Workers' Union. In 1918, after the war, the vote was extended to some women. Leonora's work in the labour movement continued, as did her efforts to further the place of women in society. In 1922, she became the chair of the Women's Subcommittee for the Leeds Local Employment Committee, providing training for unemployed young women in that city. She also became a Justice of the Peace, making her one of the first women to hold that position. In 1923, she was part of a committee that was tasked by the Ministry of Labour with investigating the supply of domestic servants. She became president of the Leeds Trade and Labour Council, and then, in 1926, she took up the presidency of the Yorkshire Federation of Trades Councils. She was the first woman to fill either of these roles. In 1928, her work was recognised when she received an OBE. Leonora worked into her early 90s. In the intervening years, her realms of interest expanded. In the 1930s, for example, she was advocating for reforestation as a means to protect the environment. In later decades, she did find herself at odds with the positions of second-wave feminists, and she would become the president of the North Wales Society for the Protection of the Unborn Child. Leonora Cohen died at the age of 105 in 1978. Her obituary was published in the Times. In it we are told that she was, quote, believed to be Britain's oldest surviving suffragette. So what do you think of Leonora Cohen? Had you heard of the Tower suffragette before this? And if you had, what did you know about her? Editing Cat here, dropping in with this screenshot that I found while I was on the hunt for images to use in this video. I like to use Creative Commons images, and of course Wikipedia is an excellent source for those. This is from the Wikipedia page of the WSPU. This is their list of notable members. Leonora Cohen doesn't feature. I wonder what you make of that. As always, I'm looking forward to reading your conversations in the comments section underneath this video. I'd also love it if you could pop an emoji or a social glyph in the comments too, because that will boost the engagement, and apparently the more engagement a video gets, the more YouTube shares it out, and that will help us to grow our community. With regards to this video and this topic, I'm thinking possible emojis are tower emojis, protest emojis, votes for women emojis, if they exist. I look forward to seeing what you can find. You can locate me elsewhere on social media. I will leave links to the other places you can find me on the internet in my description box. Please do follow me over on some or all of those so that we can continue this conversation and start some others. I do hope that you enjoyed this video and found it useful, and if you did, please do share it with your friends. If you like the channel, let some pals know about it. You can tell me about this video in particular by hitting the thumbs up. Please do subscribe to the channel, and if you think you are subscribed, now is the ideal time to check to make sure that YouTube has not mysteriously unsubscribed you against your will. While you are there, checking, subscribing, maybe resubscribing, please do hit the bell icon that sits beside the subscribe button and then select all in the drop-down menu that will appear, and that way YouTube claims they will tell you when I've next uploaded, but also when I'm next going live, which I do to talk about the history news, and I know you're not going to want to miss any of that. We have now got our failsafe. Please head over to my website. I will link it. It is www.katrinamarchant.com. If you go to the contact page, you'll see a box. Put your email address in that box. That will add you to my list and allow me to send you an email once a week to let you know what I've been up to, but also to send you useful links to my content over the coming days. I hope you're going to have a great day whatever you're doing, and I look forward to speaking to you all in my next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye for now.